Welcome to the Global Peace Film Festival Lives Online Conversation 2024 Festival Edition. Please join me, Kelly Devine, the head programmer, and Nina Strike, founder and festival director, in conversation with Andrea Kalin, the director of Public Defender, a film that you can see at the upcoming Global Peace Film Festival. All the information about our events, screenings, can be found at peacefilmfest.org. And as a reminder, our festival in Central Florida begins September 17th, and the live programming ends on September 22nd, followed by a week of virtual programming beginning September 23rd, ending on the 29th. And now let's welcome Andrea to the conversation about this really interesting film, Public Defender.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Kelly. I'm really excited both to bring this film to the festival and to also start a lot of really good conversations. Public Defender is my 12th documentary feature. And essentially, without giving away too much, because I want people to come and I want people to see it, and also be surprised how the story unfolds. But it's the story of Heather Shaner, a liberal public defender, and her journey with two clients involved in the January 6th Capitol riot. The story explores that delicate balance of justice and also fair representation, even with people whose beliefs clash with our own. I believe the film challenges all of us. It did us as filmmakers, the participants, and I think the audience as well, to rethink how we talk and how we listen across political divides. And on a lighter note, we like to think that one of the takeaways is hopefully this film will help all of us reframe and be able to perhaps look forward to this fall, a Thanksgiving that can be normal again.
Well, that's certainly something that we're hearing more of, a hopeful return to normality.
Yep.
And can you tell us a little bit, since you've described a bit about what the film is, can you describe a bit about how you found the public defender, how you found this story, what attracted you to this?
So, how I found the public defender and how I found the story are two different things. Heather, I had known many years ago, but we actually lost touch, and just serendipitously, my husband brought me the Washington Post one day, and in it was an article featuring Heather, and it said something like the headline, "Attorney has novel approach with January Sixers." And I was really struck by this because Heather, as I knew, um, would consider herself left of AOC. And I was wondering, like, what is Heather doing with January 6 rioters, insurrectionists? And so it prompted me to reach out to her, um, brought her to my office. We started talking. And in her kind of quintessential characteristic way, she said, "Well, you know, I think we've got to stop othering, we've got to stop demonizing." And I have a lot of clients that I see are starting to find their humanity. And I've got other clients that are trying to find a new lawyer. And I just thought that was hysterical. Uh, in terms of the story itself, I am from DC. I was a Capitol Hill reporter starting out. And I remember just walking the halls of the Capitol, you know, treating with such reverence the whole atmosphere and the um, the statuary hall, the desks in the Senate chamber, everything that I saw trampled that day. And I felt like this personal violation Our city had been turned into a military fortress, and the contrasts were so stark. You would see like a tarot card reader next to the National Guard. You would see Humvees and tanks in the middle of our streets, uh, next to scooters and bicycles. And I think sometimes people don't realize that DC is not just the capital, it's like where we live. And so when Heather came to my office that day, I think both of us were in this same place, that we were depleted and tired of this sense of outrage, industrial complex, the, grievance, uh, angry rhetoric that was just kind of hanging over everything, threatened by the stakes of what could or could not happen to our democracy. And so I feel that talking to Heather, I saw a way to actually do something personally, not just sit with my feelings, but actionize on them and to tell a story that I felt showed a different way. And perhaps through this film, through this story, through one conversation at a time, we could start to flip the narrative and change some of both the ways we all interact and the stories that were being told.
And Andrea, could you, as a filmmaker, talk about your process in terms of all filmmakers, um, you know, um, have some kind of idea, even if they try to have a very open, fresh mind about things. We're humans. We have a certain frame that we come to things with. Was there
Mhm.
anything that surprised you, or that you had mentioned the word, that you feel the film might challenge people's, frames of reference? Can you unpack that a little bit?
Sure. Um, I think what surprised me was how quickly the narrative shifted. Um, just, in terms of conceptually, all of us saw this visual evidence. And I felt a visceral sense of what happened. And I couldn't believe how quickly, depending on which frame of reference you have and what perspective you're coming from, that the rioters were looked at as patriots or insurrectionists. And so that just came to me conceptually as a surprise. And I knew that that was going to be a challenge in terms of trying to reach audiences. And as I said, reach across the divide. How can I tell a story that is going to resonate, hopefully universally? So that to me was a surprise. A challenge was that much of the drama took place behind closed doors. So we're not allowed to film in the district courthouse. We're not allowed to film any of the proceedings. And as a filmmaker, I had to figure out texturally, how can I sustain the drama and keep people's interests and keep them engaged visually when so much of what is happening beyond the lens of the camera that I could witness, that I could capture. And so that was one of the challenges I felt in trying to make the film dynamic and keep people vested and keep people interested.
Well, I think when people see the film, and I strongly recommend that they do, they are going to be mightily rewarded, with the way that you solved that particular challenge. But I want to make a connection to a word that you used earlier, about action, about taking action. And a big part of the Gold Peace Film Festival is about taking positive action and going back and seeing these films that we program that are inspirational, provide interesting models, taking those ideas back into one's community and doing something. Some films have really fine calls to actions, others do not. I'm
Mm.
just interested. Can you talk about, what the calls to action, what the impact campaigns may be for your film?
Sure. Um, for the film itself, we felt it was important to riff really from Heather's approach with both the J6 rioters and also almost all of her clients over the 40 plus years that she's practiced. She gives books. She gives them books to read. And so we felt that was such a core piece of how she practices holistic law. So it's not just writing up a sentencing memo. She approaches each of her clients as a therapist, as a social worker, as a mother, as a librarian, just trying to open their minds, open ideas, and to build more of a sense of empathy. And so initially we felt, how can we kind of take from that and do something that's tangible? And when I was talking to Annie, who is one of the J6 participants, she told me that when she was in jail, that books were her lifeline. And then it kind of connected for me that books are what Heather uses in her practice. Books were the lifeline for one of Heather's clients. We're going to collect books at each of our screenings and provide these to prison libraries and for incarcerated individuals. And so at every screening since our premiere at Mountain Film in May, we have put out these boxes where we request people who come to our screenings to bring paperback books. And in each community, we partner with a local organization that's able to distribute those books. So for GPFF, we're working with the Florida Coalition for Higher Education in Prisons, and they're going to distribute whatever books we manage to collect. And so far, we've really collected hundreds and hundreds of books. And when I see the excitement of both people coming to a festival and dropping the books into our very basic box, or even how they react that we're trying to do this, and then the nonprofits who talk about how important it is for them that there's other organizations that are really vested and interested in helping them collect these books. It's just a really tangible and a very local way that everyone can do something to contribute to their community and can do something to contribute to enriching libraries for people who are in need and who these books can open up whole new worlds. So that's, a very tangible way. I know that even for myself, in terms of beyond contributing books, I think one of the things that we're all interested in is how can we do better? How can we do different? And I think that part of that, and again, you'll see this kind of modeled in the film, is to approach a conversation as a way of opening up a dialogue, not starting a conflict. And it's not to demonize or judge or other someone else, because I have found that once you get past the surface kind of superficial differences between us and you start digging deeper into what people care about, you also find connections between us that you didn't realize. And for me, I never knew anyone like Annie. I never knew anyone like Jack. These are the featured participants who were involved in January 6th. But I was surprised how quickly the walls came down and how once I committed to listening to them, to witnessing what they had to say, I felt that a certain trust was engendered. And so I think each of us has the capacity to do that. Each of us can sit in the discomfort of not being in agreement. Heather once said that you don't have to agree. It's not a prerequisite to talking to someone. And I think we have been so polarized and so um, drilled in this sense of othering the other side that we only see that as the way and that there isn't another way. And there's like 330 million plus people in this country, right? We have to figure out how to live together. And regardless of what happens this fall and in this presidential election, and whomever wins, the other side isn't going away. And so, we've all learned that democracy is messy, but it doesn't mean we have to be at war with each other all the time. And, as easy or, pat as it may sound to agree to disagree, it really is about that. I mean, and not necessarily making it personal. And that's where I found that even with Jack or Annie, uh, when things would be said that, did not sit right with me, I didn't take it personal. I just tried to understand, where are they coming from? Why do they believe this way? How did they come to this conclusion? And can, we figure out a way to further open that up, that they may entertain another way of looking at what they may have shared. So I think there's the community sense, and the film related sense, and bringing books to our screenings, but there's also the personal takeaways in terms of how can we do better and how we interact.
That's really wonderful, and such concrete ideas to about the impact that this film can make. And it's so true. You do really hear from both of those J6 defendants, as well as hearing from the public defender. Have you, a couple of things, have you followed some of the books to the prisons and seen the impact, the carry-on impact that you've made? And also, is there anything else that people watching this can do to support the film? And finally, what's next for you?
So, to the first question, we have not yet, but one of our initiatives, which leads to your third question of how people can get involved, is that we really want to take this film to incarcerated individuals, so to prisons, campuses, communities, to as many places as we can go. We have also teamed up with a group called Peoplehood, which are based in New York, and they run listening workshops because all of us need to kind of expand the tools in our toolkit on how we interact with each other, because conversations are like a puzzle, and you can't, approach each one with like the same tool, like a hammer. And so I think that we all can stand to go through specific exercises, learn how to better communicate with each other, and really listen, because I do think it boils down to listening. And I found that to be the most important critical skill that, for myself personally, I'm continuing to work on, and that I was made aware of how quickly I would turn off and instead of open up. And so listening is critical. Going to, whether it's prisons or campuses or communities, and being able to conduct these listening workshops kind of as a warm-up to screening the film, and then having conversations after about how can we dialogue better? How can we figure out to live within these differences, because differences are healthy. It's just how we relate and how we, talk about those differences. And in terms of, so we need help with that. We need to, figure out places that will invite us, leads of where we can go, support to get us there and to be able to bring people in person. And that's why we're very grateful that I'm going to be able to talk in person and meet with folks coming up next month at GPFF. I think also just being able to create materials as well, like viewers guides that we can put up for free as resources on our website is something that we would love some support. And in terms of what's next, I've got a couple projects we're working on. One is a podcast series called The People's Recorder, which essentially is digging back up the gems of the Writers' Project from the 1930s and comparing and contrasting how reporters and writers at that time dealt with the very same issues that we're still struggling with today. And the other is we're working on a piece for a new memorial that's going to be in Washington for fallen journalists. And so it's memorializing journalists, truth seekers who have died in pursuit of the story, in pursuit of telling the truth. So those projects are what I'm currently working on, in addition to what am I doing? In addition to public defender. So that's where we are, and it keeps us very, very busy.
Well, happily busy for us, because it looks like you are, I recommend everyone seek out Public Defender. If they miss it at the Global Peace Film Festival, Andrea, where can they see it next?
So it will be released on The New Yorker, September 25th. And then it will be on Scripps news stations sometime in October, and then on public television, they'll be broadcasting the film on January 6th. And if I could, Kelly, because I just always feel like I learned so much from our audience, I did want to close with one quote from one of our audience members that
Please do.
came to a festival, and it's so beautiful. I could not script it myself. But I think it will also leave your audience with a sense of what they may experience and feel they can get out of the film. So Becca from Montana shared these words, and she said, "In this day and age, and I'm so guilty of this, but we're all so quick to go to black and white or feel like it has to be on either extreme. I think this film for me truly, as I've been having conversations since I saw it days ago, is expanding the gray space in the middle of the black and white. It's really given me more tolerance to have these conversations that I definitely would not have pursued nor had the tolerance to sit through before. I feel so grateful because these relationships are important to me and my community is important to me. I just want to be a more tolerant person. And this film has not only inspired me to be, but renewed my faith in myself that I can be."
Oh, that's lovely, Andrea. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much. And the one thing that I want to remind everyone who has watched this conversation is that if you are lucky enough to come to the Global Peace Film Festival and see the film, Andrea, you are going to be there, correct?
Correct.
All right.
And I'm
So
there to talk and to have conversations for as long as people want to engage.
fantastic, because you are a joy to talk to, and I think people will be mightily rewarded by seeking out this film. So thank you, Andrea, and thank you to everyone who listened to today's Glow. If you would like to learn more about ways that you can support Public Defender, please go to publicdefenderfilm.com. And also, if you are in the Central Florida area this September and you would like to know about how you can see this film and other films and activities that we have upcoming for the Global Peace Film Festival, please visit peacefilmfest.org. And remember that our in-person programming begins September 17th, runs through September 22nd, and our virtual programming begins on the 23rd of September, ending on the 29th. Thank you so much, and we'll see you at the next Glow.